In my last video, I showed you how I made an embroidery design that was part applique and part fill stitch. Well, there's two things that I like to do before I stitch out something on a t-shirt, a tote, or whatever I plan to put it on. First of all, whether I made the design, but especially when I got the design from someone else, I like to take it into Embrilliance, run it through the stitch simulator, and make sure I understand how the file works. Second of all, I like to do a practice stitch out. We're going to do both of those things today. Here's the design that we're going to stitch out today, and I opened it in my Embrilliance software. The first thing I can do is look right here. If I click on that, I see the various layers. We'll talk about what those are when we run the stitch simulator. And to open the stitch simulator, you click right here. I can either push the play button, or I can just drag this and I can do it at my speed. Let's do it that way. So the first layer, the black layer, that is the placement stitch. If you're new to applique, what that means is it's a stitch that shows you where to place down your applique fabric. After that plays out and you put your fabric down, the next stitch is the tack down stitch. And that stitch is what sews the fabric to your shirt, your tote, or whatever you're using. After that stitch is finished, you take your hoop off the machine. You don't unhoop your fabric, but you take your hoop off the machine, you cut away that excess applique fabric, you put it back on your machine, and you're ready for the satin border stitch. Then lastly, we have the red fill stitch. This all looks good, so let's move on to stitching it out. Here's the supplies that I'm going to use in today's video. I have some scrap t-shirt fabric, I have my applique fabric, 2 colors of thread, scissors, applique scissors, some basting adhesive, some no-show mesh stabilizer. That's all I use when I'm doing stretchy things like t-shirts, sweatshirts, baby onesies. Some light sewable heat and bond. I'm going to put that on the back of my applique fabric. And then lastly, I am using a new hoop and I am so excited to try it out. This magnetic hoop came from Sewtechstore.com. It fits the Poolin EOC06 and it has these magnets on top. So let me go ahead and take these off and we'll get the fabric hooped up. Now these magnets are very strong, so be careful when you're removing them or placing them back on your hoop. This no-show mesh is a very soft, very drapey cutaway stabilizer. I'm going to attach that to the back of the t-shirt fabric using some of this basting spray. What that does is it keeps your fabric from stretching, which is where you can get all that puckering. I did a video recently where I showed my full process of what I do to keep t-shirts, baby onesies, stretchy things like that from puckering. So I'll put a link to that in the video description just in case you're interested in checking it out. So I'm going to hold this over my trash can, put a little basting spray on it, then we'll attach it to the back of the fabric. Now since this is a test stitch out, it doesn't really matter what's the front and what's the back. But we are going to have this be the back. This is a slightly sticky side. We'll go ahead and place it down. Make sure it's smooth. Make sure the shirt is smooth. And then I want to press down really hard to make sure it has a good bond. All right, I think that's good. If this was a real project, I would use a lint roller on this again. I already did once. I see a few things on there, but it's going to be fine. So we're going to place this hoop behind it. Place our item on top of it. And then I want to make sure that there truly is stabilizer covering the back of this, or covering the hoop. Okay. Now this is my very first time to use this hoop. I have not practiced with it at all. So we're going to see together how this goes. Each of these magnets has this little angled piece, and that's going to go to the inside of the hoop, and it'll slightly hang over the hoop. I'll put 2 magnets on this left side. Then 2 magnets on the right side. Then I'll place 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. And as you can see, this is nothing like a traditional hoop. After getting my Mighty hoops for my multi-needle, I started looking into magnetic hoops, and I was so excited to find one for my Poolin. I have other videos on my channel about this Poolin EOC06. One of the things that I love about it is, for a single needle, it comes with a pretty large hoop. Also, it's one of the more affordable single needle machines that has a large hoop. Let's go ahead and attach the hoop. Then we'll run our first stitch. Remember, that's the placement stitch. It shows us exactly where to place our material for the applique. While that was stitching out, I was busy pressing my fabric and putting that heat and bond light on the back of it. This next stitch that we're doing is a tack down stitch. So I'll put the presser foot down, and then if I need to hold down my fabric since I didn't tape it, I'll use a chopstick. Now I'm going to remove the hoop and trim that excess applique fabric away. I'm not going to take the fabric out of the hoop, I'm just removing the hoop from the machine. So far it looks like this magnetic hoop is doing its job, so we are going to cut away this excess fabric. And I want to cut as close to those stitches as possible. If I accidentally cut through 1 or 2, it's okay, but try not to. And of course you want to be very, very careful that you don't accidentally cut your base fabric. The fabric of your shirt, your tote, or whatever you're putting this on. Then lastly, you don't want to stretch your shirt so that when it goes back on the machine, it's not quite where it used to be. Because if you do, the stitches aren't going to line up quite right. Now, it is very tempting to use a lint roller right now. If you do, hold your fabric down, because just like when you're cutting away the excess applique fabric, you don't want to stretch your shirt. And unless it's really close against your letters, you can get that off later anyway. All right, let's go ahead and do that satin border stitch. Now I've decided to use this pink thread instead of the lighter pink thread that I thought I would use. I just think it's going to give this design a little more interest. I removed the hoop, then I talked about needing to press this because I hadn't pressed that heat and bond light yet. While I was pressing it, I realized I hadn't hit record. So all you missed was me taking the magnets off, taking the fabric off. I talked a little bit about some excess fabric that I didn't trim real well when I was doing the applique trimming. Then I cut a little bit away there, and I think right there. One thing I hadn't noticed about these hoops was this is kind of, it feels almost like a felt. And so I like that. It's going to help keep that fabric from slipping around while it's in the hoop. I like how this worked. So here's the final design. It looks good. I have a couple places where maybe I need to adjust the push-pull compensation. And then let's look at the back. I think that looks great. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, leave them in the comment section below. And if you're interested in checking out the Poolin embroidery machine or some of the other supplies that I used, as well as this hoop, I'm going to put links to those in the video description. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope to see you in my next video.